All right. Hello and welcome to the Renovation Nation show, brought to you by Red Maples, your go-to source for institutional style property management of small multifamily rentals. I am your host, Nathan Bush, and each show I share with you lessons from my real life real estate experience. We invite industry experts, innovators, and influencers to explore the challenges and opportunities facing small multifamily real estate investors. We've designed this show to answer questions you have about growing your real estate business. If you want more of these types of resources, I regularly publish information on www.nathanbushmba.com. You can go there, /subscribe, join my email list. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel to be notified when shows like this pop up. Check out the other resources in the links in the show description. Today's show, guys, I have got an amazing guest. This guest is somebody who I've been following their career for a long period of time. They're a self-mastery coach, speaker expert, published author. They are podcaster. They are also, believe it or not, highly involved in the St. Louis real estate community. Even though they're helping, this particular gentleman is helping to create a life by design, helping you to seek your inner wealth, to understand the millionaire mindset. This person is also highly involved in the St. Louis real estate community, and I'm so grateful that Mike Kitko has agreed to join us on the show today. What's up, Mike? How are you? We got you muted here. There you go.
Nathan,
hi, Mike. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, I was talking even if I was muted. I'll just go anyway. It doesn't matter if people listen. But no, man, it's good to be here, brother. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the awesome introduction, and man, I can't wait to jam.
Yeah. So, Mike, you and I know a lot of the similar people. We were talking before the show, and a lot of people in the real estate community. How did you get so involved with a lot of real estate investors and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, man, I backed into it completely. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't by design whatsoever. Early on in my coaching career, I don't know if this is really a career, but my coaching platform, I befriended a guy named Brian Schroeder, and Brian he's the OG of real estate investing in the St. Louis metropolitan area. You know, he built the Faster House brand and faster funds lending, and he just kind of built that platform. And early on in my coaching career, he asked me to be his coach. And my response was because Brian, he already had a really nice business and a really nice platform, multimillionaire and at the time 125 rental properties, and he says, Mike, it's been a couple of years since I've had a business coach. I'd like to hire you as my business coach. And I literally said, dude, fuck off. Like, what am I going to teach you, right? So because it was early in my coaching career, but he was a little forceful, and eventually he became a client of mine. And we did some one-on-one coaching, and I would really do some business development with him, some leadership training, some leadership development. And he had a club, and the Faster House Buyers Club at the time, and he put me on stage, and he said, "This is my coach." And basically that got me started, Nathan. He hired me as his business coach, and I kind of borrowed the credibility from that he gave me just by proximity, and that really started me in the investor space. And what Brian said is, Mike, just focus on investors, because investors know the power of investing in themselves and the power of education. And investors are hungry for self-growth. And really, that's what I found. And that's why I love the real estate investment community so much, because investors invest in themselves. They are their number one asset, their primary asset. And if they don't invest in themselves, then they're probably not going to get as far as they could.
Yeah. John Maxwell says the law of the mirror is to grow yourself, you have to see value in yourself.
Absolutely.
And I know that a lot of this stuff that you have shared with entrepreneurs over the years that have significantly helped you have come from this concept of value and understanding your net worth. I heard you one time say that your net worth is a reflection of the value you've created for others.
For other people. Yeah, and we've heard it said differently, right? That was my way of saying that when you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So if you really look at what the amount of money that you have in your bank account, you can see the impact that you've had on the world. You can see the value that you've put into the world, because like there's this harmony, there's this flow in the world, and where when you give enough value and you impact enough people's lives, naturally, it might not come directly from those people, but somehow life rewards that value that you've put into the world. So the more value you give, the more value you receive. And there's a book, called The Go Giver, and that's the principle, right? The more you give, the more you receive. You don't need to focus on receiving. You focus on giving, and the receiving will happen naturally if your heart's open to receiving. And that was a hard one for me to learn. Like the giving part for me was always easy, but the receiving part came a little harder. So once I opened my heart and opened my wallet and allowed people to pour into me, then that's when my wealth started increasing because of the impact that I was making.
That's incredible. And the way that you just said that brought something to mind. So, I value people, you value people. It's extremely important that people know that they have worth, right? That they have value. But then yet there's this dichotomy, because the value that's in your bank account is a direct reflection of the value you created for others.
Sure.
And so there's a person that's sitting out there right now that's listening to us in our audience. I know I can see them, I can hear them. A lot of people are new real estate investors in my audience, or they're people that are getting ready to get started in real estate. They haven't put the money into it. They haven't done anything, but they're looking to take action. And so I hear the person saying, well, then what value do I have to give away to others? Because I don't have anything. I don't have any money. I don't have any real estate. I don't have any education. What do you say to that person, Mike?
So great question, man. And I want to go back and I want to unpack my story a little bit. I had a long, successful run in Fortune 500 America, and like I'm a Marine vet first and foremost. Marine vet. That's what really started my accelerated, I guess, my progress as a leader. But I'm a Marine vet. I jumped into the corporate game, and I started ascending the corporate ladder. And after about 16 years, I was running, a $350 million manufacturing plant, energy plant. But I'd also run a $65 million and a $10 million, just kind of, continued to level up. But in 2016, I was 300 pounds. I was suicidal. I was drinking at toxic levels. I had a lot of money. I had a lot, big titles and a lot of authority, and it all fell apart. I mean, my whole life collapsed. I got fired, terminated from corporate twice in about 20 months. And I got the opportunity to rebuild everything. After I didn't kill myself, I got the opportunity to rebuild myself and rebuild my life. But, after a long run in corporate and a lot of accolades and a lot of executive level positions, high power positions, I felt worthless. I felt like I had nothing to add to the world.
Yeah, I remember you saying at one time that you hid yourself away for 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, my first book was called The Imposter in Charge. That's exactly right. I thought I was a fraud. I thought what other people saw in me was, it was an illusion that they were living in, that I really had no value. And the point of saying this is the things that I'm doing right now, the coaching, the speaking, the content creation, podcasting, speaking from a stage, moving the needle in other people's lives. These are all the things that I love doing in corporate. When I had somebody in my office in corporate, now I had a large, hundreds and hundreds of people that worked for me. But when I had someone in my office, I lost track of time. And all I did was focus all my attention, all my energy, like everything, my passion, into helping that person become the greatest version of themselves. And then when I was done with that conversation, I would go back down on the floor and I would walk the floor and I would hate that. But I did 1,000 things every day, but I only enjoyed one or two, and that was developing people and developing teams. I only loved those two. I did all the rest of it because I thought I had to in order to do those two. When I started rebuilding this thing, I literally thought I had no value. And here's why. Because those things came so easily for me. They came so naturally for me. I was so good at them, and it didn't require any effort. I thought they didn't have any value in this world. Sometimes, no, let me take that back. 99.9% of the time, the things that we are highly gifted at, we don't even know we're highly gifted at because they come so easily to us. Because we've been conditioned by the world that if it's not hard, it's not valuable. That if you don't have to expend a lot of effort, if you don't struggle, then it's not, you're not doing it enough. You're not helping enough. You're not exerting enough. You're not being forceful enough. Does this make sense?
Yeah. So what does somebody do to get there, Mike?
This is called your zone of genius. And there's a great book called The Big Leap, LEAP, by a fellow named Gay Hendricks, Dr. Gay Hendricks. And he calls it your zone of genius. What we need to do to understand this is ask other people what we're really good at and what talents, like ask people that we trust. Ask people that love us, that actually have our best interest in mind. Ask people what beauty they see in us, what talent they see in us, where our gifts lie, and then trust them. And when I wrote that book, The Imposter in Charge, people would tell me what I was good at, but I didn't believe them because I wanted to believe the stories in my head that I had no value. I wanted to believe the stories. And that's what the imposter syndrome is. It's you're holding stories inside of your mind, inside of your body, and they conflict with what the world is showing you that's good about yourself. And you choose to believe the stories instead of the evidence that counters the stories. So the first thing I did to understand my zone of genius is ask people who I actually trusted, who had my best interest in mind, and they say, "Mike, you leave everybody better than you found them." Like when you're involved in a conversation with them, when you're speaking, people pay attention. Like your spoken word is powerful, and when you pour into somebody, their life always improves. And I didn't understand how impactful that was. I didn't understand that was a gift, Nathan. I just thought that was what everybody could do. Because if I felt worthless and if I could do it, then it must not have any value, and everybody else must be able to do that too. But that's not true.
If I can do it, I felt worthless because I felt like that had no value, because if I could do it, anybody else could do it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of real estate investors just in general. It sounds like a lot of the guys that I talk with. See, I go to a lot of the different meetup groups here in St. Louis. I attend Tours and Pours. I attend the St. Charles County Real Estate Investors Association. I've attended Rich Groves, the River City Roundtable. I'm a part of the St. Louis real estate community. And oftentimes I hear people saying in this community, well, what I do, there's not really a lot of value to it. That's why I want to get into real estate investing. Because I see these other guys that are doing so well. They're killing the game. They're investing. They're making money. They're turning into multimillionaires in real estate investing. But I don't see any value in the work that I'm currently doing. How do you speak to that person that wants to make that transition in their career, their life, similar to what you did? How do you help somebody erase the whiteboard of all of the things they think that they have to do or are doing, and put them in a position where they can have a vision for a better future of themselves?
So here's the easiest way to teach this is I'm going to tell a story. Okay. There is a local real estate investor, transitioning real estate investor. How about that? And her name is Melanie. Okay. Melanie Tucci. And she has a travel business. She's an investor and she has a travel business. Now, when Melanie started, Melanie's first and foremost passion is travel. Okay. I want to establish that. That's her passion, is going on long adventures and going to different continents and going on long excursions. Now, she wanted to travel. So she jumped into real estate investing, doing some wholesaling, buying and holding to cash flow enough so that she could fund her travel excursions. Okay. You with me so far?
Yeah.
At some point, people started asking her to go on her travel adventures, and she started charging them to go on travel adventures. And she just thought that was like, pretty cool and pretty neat that she would, people would pay her to take them on the adventures. When we started working together, I said, well, what do you really love? What do you want to do? And she's like, I want to travel. I was like, well, why don't we just monetize that? And she said, I do, to a small degree. And I said, well, and we started doing some math, Nathan. She was in real estate investing to fund travel, but when she went all in on travel, she didn't need another source of income. The travel paid for itself. And she got to do more of what she was passionate about. And she got to stop doing what she wasn't passionate about and go all in, because I've never seen someone commit and go all in on anything and fail. I've only seen people be half-hearted, be half-ass something. That's when they fail. People that go all in on something always crush it. And when I say commit, I mean 100% commitment. 99% commitment equals 0% commitment. And when you're half in, half out something, or you have fractured focus and you're splitting your focus, or you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or you have a plan B, if you have a plan B, be prepared to use it. You're going to need it. And when she went all in on travel, she crushed it. And she started like booking all of these tours and taking people to cool places like Patagonia and Colombia. And she would take 14, 15 people, and she would start making more on her travel excursions than she was making wholesale.
So, Mike, I can imagine a lot of people who just heard you say that, they immediately had a fear that popped up in their mind.
Absolutely.
They were concerned because they're like, this is my livelihood. This is how I make money. This is what feeds my family. Yep. Like, how do you help somebody let go of that? I want to say that people are obsessed with money. Like, I'm going to take a second and just talk about this, and then I want to get back to the story because this is so impactful and so important. But I feel like, just for a soapbox moment, like, I feel like people are so hold on to money. Money is everything in their life. Money becomes their God, their idol, becomes a thing they worship, the thing that they breathe in every morning. When they wake up, the first thing they're thinking about money, the last thing they think about before they go to bed is money. And I feel like this concept of money being your God is what significantly holds so many people back, because they're so beholden to the money, not the passion. They're so beholden to well, my wife will divorce me if we don't have any money. What are we going to do? She won't let me make this career change. Or my husband, there's no way he's going to let me leave this $100,000 a year job and go do the thing that I actually love to do. Because what if it doesn't work out, right? There's this fear because they love money so much that they can't let go of the money, let go of the old version of themselves and become this new version. What do you say to those people? How do you work through that with somebody?
You gave, there was a lot in that question. All right. So, but when I was ready to make a transition, and I wanted to start my business, my coaching business, and I told my wife, she said, "F no, you're not. You're going to get a job. We need benefits. We need a vacation a plan. We need a 401k. We need medical benefits." And I filed for divorce. Now, the reason I say that is because I am here for 80, 90 years. And if I have a burning desire to do something, there's nobody that's going to get in the way of that. Not even my wife, who should be, in my mind, the most supportive person of my dream. And so often we live our lives through other people's fears. Like, I say this, Nathan, and look, I'm not saying everybody is willing to do this, but my wife has fears. I have fears, and I can't manage the fears in her mind and body. I can only take full 100% accountability and responsibility for my body, my fears, my courage, my desires, my passions, and go all in. But here's what I've learned. I've learned how to trust myself enough to know that when I go all in on anything, I crush it. And I can see that in my career. And there's a quote that I love. Life is not difficult. It's lack of trust in life that makes life so difficult. Okay. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust life. If you believe in a God, I believe in some force in the universe. I don't believe in like Sky Daddy, right? But I believe in like some force, some loving force in the universe. If we don't trust that, life is really, really difficult. So when I look back at my history, whenever I've compromised myself, everything was harder than it needed to be. But when I trust myself, when I immersed myself, when I committed, it always worked out for the better. It may not have looked exactly the way I wanted to look. It might not have been comfortable. It might not have been on my timing, but I've always gotten what I wanted. I just had to learn how to become the person capable of creating that. There's so many people that are living a life of moment by moment security and safety and no risk all the way up until they die. And that doesn't sound like living to me. That just sounds like trying not to die. And that's not why we're here on this earth, is to try not to die. You are going to die. Now, I'm going to tell one more story. Okay. So, some of the high level people that I work with. Okay. I've got a lot of high level people in this phone, a lot of real estate investors, and you'd never know it by watching their social media that they call me when they feel like the world's falling apart, when they feel like the world's collapsing. Okay. And I had one really high level investor call me, and he's like, Mike, I just like, it feels like the walls are collapsing. I'm in a really dark place right now. I just need a tweak. Can you help me? And I said, all right, you ready? We're going to jam for a second. And here's exactly what I told him, Nathan. Listen, you're going to die. Your wife is going to die. Your kids are going to die. Your empire is going to collapse. Any amount of money that you accumulate at some point is going to be wiped away. At some point, whatever legacy you leave is going to be forgotten. At some point, an asteroid's going to hit this earth and it's going to blow up. The universe has been here for 14 billion years, and you've got 80 to 90 years. And at some point, something's going to hit this earth and it's going to shatter into a million little rocks and just be part of the asteroid belt. Don't take any of this seriously. If you're not having fun, you're doing it all wrong. And he said, holy shit, that was some bleak stuff, but I feel better. Because we take life way too seriously. Like we spend our entire lives trying to prevent death. And then death is like undefeated. Everyone's going to die, but not very many people actually live.
I love that saying, because when I speak, Mike, from stage, a lot of times I will use the example of Lord of the Rings. And remember My Precious?
Yeah,
the little goblin that he was so beholden to that stupid ring. And I said, so many of you treat your money like that. Mm-hmm. You won't invest in books to improve yourself. You won't invest in the audio programs. You won't go to the conferences. You won't do the seminars. You won't do the actual work that it takes in order to make a transition out of what your life used to be, because you're so beholden to this little thing called My Precious, called money, called the life that I've built, the whiteboard that I've written all of my life on. Yeah. And you think that one thing, that thing that's gotten you to where you're at, you think is going to be the thing that brings you happiness and joy going forward. But yet you keep running into this wall, this whole proverbial a volcano that keeps you from being able to make it to the other side. You're running into a brick wall, holding on to this thing that no longer serves you anymore. And you're afraid. And I say, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so, like, my wife and I, we're premium buyers. When we go out and we pay for something, we buy the VIP, the upgrade. If we're going to do it, like you said, Mike, you got to go all in. You got to do the full immersion experience. And I often tell the crowd or would tell the audience, depending on where I'm speaking, depending on how large they are, about the time that we went all in at the Dixie Stampede. Do you know what VIP is at the Branson Dixie Stampede, Mike?
I don't, but it sounds expensive.
You are sitting in the front row at a horse show eating food. There's nothing VIP about that.
Oh my God.
But it's how we do everything. So if we're going to go to the Dixie Stampede, we went all in on the Dixie Stampede. You know what? Sometimes it turns out not to be a great experience. That's okay. That's okay. But if you're going to do it, don't be so beholden to that stupid money. Go do the things you want to do in this life. I love that about your approach. And you talked about something about safety versus fear and risk. And I find this to be so instrumental for real estate investors, because there are risks that are out there, but there are some safer risks. And then there are legitimate fears that hold people back from doing the thing that they want to do.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that safe risk that you're talking about when you describe that for people?
Yeah, so I think let's go back to something even a little more elementary. There's fear and there's danger. Okay, so let's dive into those two first. Everybody, we are fear-based creatures, right? Human beings. We have an amygdala in the back of our skull, and it's constantly signaling that there's danger in the world. Okay, everything that's uncertain, everything that's unknown, everything that you can't see with 100% certainty, it's gonna your amygdala is gonna signal that there's danger there, and real danger means that your death is imminent. That's really what danger is, right? So your body gives the same response for things that aren't dangerous as it does for things that are dangerous. Now, when you hear use other people's money in real estate investing, and my man Sam Prim, who constantly talks about other people's money, right? Never use a dime of $50 million, never use a dime of my own money. When you position these correctly, when you make safe assumptions, and you position yourself, and you're diligent with your comps, is there risk? Yes, there's risk, but it's safe risk and it's healthy risk. And without risk, there's not going to be a wealth creation. But if you try to live a life with zero risk, you're going to live in this really small fear box. And you're just clinging to life until you die. You're clinging to safety and security until you die. And that's not really living. And healthy risk, safe risk, is just exposing yourself to something that the probability that the danger is going to happen is so small that the benefits outweigh the risk. But your body will tell you when unconditioned, or when you're living out of programming, and when you're living out of your primal state, your body will tell you there's danger even when there's not. And the people at the higher levels that have the huge net worths, that have and I'm talking about investors that have the huge net worths, that have positioned themselves to cash flow, they've reconditioned their body to what danger really is. And that's the mindset work that goes into development. And that's the money mindset of becoming a multimillionaire. That you assume healthy risk, but without the danger responses that are inherent to the body.
Yeah. So, the title of this show today was Poor Mind, Poor Life, Rich Mind, Rich Life, the Millionaire's Mindset, right? What is a poor mind to you look like versus a rich mind?
Think about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, just go back to the investor's Bible, right? There's not enough money to go around. Rich people are greedy. Money is the root of all evil. Wealthy people, rich people are crooks. To have money, you need to take advantage of people. The rich people build their empires on the backs of the poor. I mean, these are all poor money beliefs. Okay, poor mind, poor life. You hold on to those beliefs of money being bad, of creating wealth being greedy, of there not being enough money in the world for everybody to have opportunity. If you hold on to those beliefs, you're going to live a really, really broke ass life. But rich people, really rich people, and when I say rich, I mean wealthy, successful, and happy. That's what I mean by somebody who's really rich, who's really living a rich life. They understand that there's plenty of money for everybody. Opportunity, the more value you give, the more value you create in the world, the more value you're going to receive. There's plenty of money for everybody to have everything that they need. It's just they have a money mindset that allows them to give enough value to receive what they want. Well, wealthy people, the more you have, the more you can give. The more you have, the more you can help. The more you have, the more you can positively impact. and you never need to take advantage. I mean, how many investors that I work with that have an abundance mindset? Listen, if this isn't a win-win for both of us, if we're not both winning, we're not going to do this deal. And I've literally watched one of the wealthiest landlords, let's say, that I've ever worked with. His tenant wanted to buy one of his rental properties, and this rental property had a cracked foundation. And the tenant didn't have a lot of money, but they wanted to buy this house because they lived in it, and they had just enough to buy it. And my client, the landlord, said, I'm not selling that to you because that cracked foundation will bankrupt you. And I can't let you do that. And that tenant was willing to take on that risk because they couldn't really afford anything else. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that to you. That would be putting you in a bad spot. And I refuse to do that. I'm not going to hurt somebody for my benefit. That is how a rich person thinks. That's how someone who's really, really living with an abundance mindset, that has a rich mind, that's how they think. I'm not going to hurt somebody else for my own benefit, but I'm going to look out for where there's win-win or win-win-win opportunities. And there's plenty to go around for everyone. I don't need to hurt anybody to get what I want.
Mike, that reminds me so much of my philosophy on TurnKey Properties. There are so many people in St. Louis that are flipping properties to out-of-state investors that keep calling them turnkey properties with that cracked foundation because they can make a couple bucks off the deal. They'll churn it. There's wholesalers that run around in St. Louis right now that will be like, hey, you can make 35% on your money renting this thing out, when they never have done any due diligence on the deal to know exactly what needs to be done in order to fix that property up and actually make money off of that thing. There's people right now that are running around in the St. Louis market that are claiming to be property managers that just want to get money under management, that actually have no intentions of actually stewarding the asset and making sure that companies are taken care of and that things are done correctly. See, as a management company, we're willing to say to an investor, no, we're not going to put a tenant in your unit just because you need a tenant in your unit. We're going to put somebody who's qualified that can pay the rent, that wants to be here inside of your unit, not somebody that's lied on their paycheck stub, not somebody that's screaming F-bombs at me before they go into the unit. Like, that's not happening. We're going to clean the units up. We're not going to be walking around smoking weed all over the place. Like, we're going to fix the actual issues there, and it takes some time. It takes some time to clean that old self out and put a new self in place. And as a management company, we're willing to go through that with investors. Sometimes they got to be willing to go through that with us, you know?
Yeah. And the high quality investors, the high quality landlords that I work with, the number one thing they pride themselves on is providing safe, quality accommodations for people who need places to live. That's their but Nathan, for someone and look, I grew up in not poverty. My family wasn't poor, but it was lower middle class, blue collar, union steel worker, right? And people who have money are greedy, and people who have money are, they're slimy. I grew up with that. And the word landlord meant slumlord, that they were synonymous. But to someone who grew up in that environment, and I'm picturing my dad, right? My rich dad, poor dad. I had poor dad. That for somebody who grew up in that environment, when you thought of landlord, you thought of someone who was looking to hurt the tenant, right? You didn't think. I didn't grow up in a family, in a culture, in an environment, a familial culture that said that someone would buy a rental property to take care of somebody else. Like, that was foreign. Those were disconnected. But buying a rental property only meant one thing, is you were looking to take advantage of another human being. And that's a poor mindset. That's a poor money mindset. And that shit will keep you broke. But let's go back to the precious, right? I like that, right? The precious, it's people that keep accumulating, thinking that's the only way they can survive, and it's never, ever, ever going to be enough. Is I've got to hurt people to get what's mine because I don't have enough. And if you're not happy with zero, when you have one, you'll just want two. Yeah. And I'm going to say that again. When you're not happy with zero, when you have one, you'll just want two. It'll never, ever be enough. And if you don't feel safe with $1 million, you think you'll feel safe with 2, and that's why you chase. And when you don't feel safe with 2 million, you'll chase 3. And that's why someone chases for the rest of their life, but never really feel like they ever crossed the finish line. One of the greatest quotes I've ever heard about money is an awesome fuel, but it's a horrible destination.
God, love that, Mike. I mean, you got some really good information for real estate investors, guys. If you haven't taken the time, if you're watching this on replay or you're just hopping in right now, we're talking with Mike Kitko. He's an incredibly talented coach, speaker, author, podcaster, works in the real estate investor community, but works with people who are making the mindset shift, the life transformations. And he's done this at the highest level with some of the top people in St. Louis, guys. So if you're just tuning in right now, like, you have to be grateful that this gentleman is on this show for you. With that said, we were just talking about something, Mike, that struck a chord with me because it runs in line with the Caesar method, which is the book that I wrote. It runs in line with our real estate company, and it runs back in line with the conversation we were talking about, where we were talking about value, and your net worth is a reflection of the value you've created for others. And when you don't have any values, you have no value. And so I think it's incredibly imperative that if people want to give something away, if they don't feel they have anything worthwhile to give to Dow, they don't feel the value like what you were talking about that you had, but they always have their values to fall back on. I think the problem, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I feel like a lot of people, they're not disciplined to their values. And so they're willing to throw away their own value as opposed to giving that value away freely. How do you feel about that whole imposter syndrome, but not being disciplined to your values?
Yeah. So you said a lot there again. I think a lot of people don't know their values. I don't think people have paused enough to really reflect to even know who they are, what they stand for. I think people, and Nathan, I think people live in one of 2 modes. And I really I don't believe that there's an in between. Okay. Now, they could be living in one or the other in one area of their life, or one or the other in a different area of their life, but there's only 2 modes they're living in. One is survival mode and one is creation mode. Okay. Now I'm going to explain the difference between survival mode and creation mode. And then I'm going to tie it back to values. Okay. If someone is in survival mode, they wake up every day trying to accumulate resources to get things, to do things for the benefit of their own survival. Okay. So that could be to combat insecurity, fear of loss, inadequacy, that I don't feel like I'm good enough, or insignificance, that, like a story that I don't matter. They're trying to fix one of those 3 conditions that are inside of them, one of those 3 internal conflicts. That creates a sense of survival mode. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Insecurity, fear of loss, and most times that's money. Inadequacy, I'm not good enough. And maybe if I have more money, I'll feel good enough. Or maybe if I have more rental properties, I'll feel good enough. Or maybe if I get this business up and running, I'll feel good enough. Or insignificance, I don't matter. Like, everybody else matters but me, and I want to feel like I matter. If you wake up in any of those 3 states, or live in those 3 states, in your health, in your wealth, in your career, in your marriage, in your parenting, if you live in one of those 3, you're in survival mode. Now, you can make the shift to creation mode where you're doing it because I get to, not because I have to, not because I'm trying to solve some internal conflict inside my mind and inside my body. And this is the mindset of wealth. And this is why my business is called Inner Wealth, because you're living in one of those 4 states: insecurity, inadequacy, insignificance, or inspiration. Inspiration is where we're doing something because it's innate in us. It's a desire. It's a passion. It's a fire. It's a fuel. It's something in us that's trying to be expressed in the world. You're living in one of those 4 states in every aspect of your life. Now I'm going to tie that back to your values and your value. Most people are living, and I would say over 95% of the people on this planet are living in survival mode, right? Insecurity, inadequacy, insignificance. So they don't stop and pause long enough to really understand who they are at a deep enough level to really understand what's inside of them that's trying to be expressed in the world to get into inspiration. So when I felt like when I was climbing the corporate ladder and I felt like I was an imposter, it's because I didn't even know who the F I was. I didn't even know what value I had. I had never taken inventory of my talents. I never really understood, what do I have to give the world? What do I want to give the world? I was just trying to accumulate and amass titles and authority and wealth and just trying to feel safe. And when you don't feel safe and you're living a life just to try to feel safe, and we had the money to feel safe, we just didn't feel safe because, like, I never paused long enough to realize I had enough. When you don't have, when you're not happy with zero, when you have one, you'll just want two, and it never ever stops. So how do you get into values alignment? You got to take inventory about what your values really are. Like the values, when I took inventory of my own values and the values of my business, Inner Wealth, love, first and foremost, love, letting others voluntarily evolve, accept people where they are, and seek out people who accept who you are and love them and love each other. Integrity, right? Integrity is saying what you do, doing what you say, and being the highest version of yourself at all given times. Trust. If I can't trust you and you can't trust me, we're probably not going to be good fits, right? Expansion, like, for everything to expand in our lives, our health, our wealth, the impact, our relationships, the love that we have for each other. And service is actually like give the greatest expression and the greatest gifts and talents to others that we can to make their lives better. So what I just expressed was an exercise to really understand what's in me trying to get out. What do I stand for? Who do I want around me? And if you're not in alignment with those values, we're probably not going to be good personal connection. We're probably not going to be a good professional connection either.
Yeah, I love that, Mike. There was a worse time in my life. It was a number of years ago, and I had went through a bunch of stuff, and I was sitting down with a mentor of mine, and he's like, dude, just be yourself. And I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Exactly.
I can't just go be myself. I've read all these books. I've listened to these audio programs. I've been through all these training programs. You know, I've followed you and your mentor program. Like, but I just mimic everybody else. I don't know who that is. Who is Nathan Bush? And he said, that's the question, man.
Yeah.
That's the question.
What
do you stand for? What are your values? Why are those things so important to you?
Written on the gates of Delphi, it said, know thyself, right? It's the wisest words ever written. Know thyself. If you don't understand who you are, if you don't understand what you stand for, if you don't understand what you have to give away, because listen, and you and I had this conversation, Nathan. I'm not a religious man, but I am a very, very spiritual man, and no one was born by coincidence or mistake. We are all here on purpose and on time, and we all have something to give in this world. We all have something to leave behind in this world. We all have something that is going to impact the world. It's your job to find it. And if you don't find it, nobody can find it for you. But when people, I just, when I was in my early parenting phase, and my kids are, my girls were empty nesters. Our girls are 19 and 22 now. They're both off at college. When I parented them just like I was parented. Here's what you stand for. Here's the religion that you are. Here's the political affiliation that you have. Here's the sports teams that you like, right? Here's who you are. I'll tell you who you are. You don't get a vote. Because if you're not what I want you to be, I'm going to be uncomfortable. So your life is about me. It's not about you. And I just passed that on to my girls. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We align with this political affiliation. We vote this way. Here's the sports teams. Here's you need to be this person so I can be okay. And if I wouldn't have opened my eyes, my kids would have passed on the same to my grandkids. And we're all just when we're living unconscious, we're all just passing on reflections of who came before us. We're not understanding what we have like at our disposal. And we all have genetic differences. We all have talents. We all have different desires. We all have different gifts to give this world. It's up to you to figure out who it is. Nobody else gets a vote if you stop giving them a vote. But we've just passed on painful conditioning from generation to generation to generation. And you can see it in how people in how people relate and associate with money, because we're still living with Great Depression beliefs about money. That if you don't have 15 commas, then you're going to go broke. Right? We're still living in Great Depression era. And I do want to clean something up though. When I work with somebody, I want them to make as much money as they possibly can. I want them to have everything that their hearts desire, but I don't want them to live in scarcity in one place in their life so they can live in prosperity in another. Like, I want everything to expand all at the same time. But the Great Depression said that we should give up parts of our life so that others can be okay. And that's not a real thing. Those are just false beliefs handed down from generation to generation. And if we don't stop, we're going to keep making the next generation's life as painful as our generation's was.
Wow, Mike. I mean, you said a lot of stuff that people, if you're taking notes today, guys, on the show, I know a lot of you guys take notes that watch. I mean, there was so much. Go back, watch that, rewind that segment, because I want to break something down just real quick, and then we'll continue on with the conversation. But first and foremost, the reason that my wife wrote the book, The Coin System, was because we wanted to share with other people how we transferred family values, not family-controlled mindsets, to our daughter. And so my wife, who has a doctorate in leadership, put together that program to help people transfer the values to their children. Now, in addition to those values, which is important in the family, it's also important in business. And your ability to transfer your values to those around you is part of that giving, that you can give value to others because it's based upon the values that you have. Your products, your services, everything you design are built around that core value. And having that value also then begins to shift your mindset from a me focused to a them focused, to a client focused, to a service focused, where you can actually add that value to somebody else. And so if we want to have a good mindset, and Mike, I really appreciate your input on that. If you want to have a good mindset, it's so critical to start with knowing who you are. I personally had a challenge with this. It sounds like, Mike, you had a spiritual awakening about this.
Sure.
And I don't want you guys to get to the point where you're an alcoholic, suicidal, overweight. You had the same challenges that I went through in my past that you guys know about. Like, I don't want you to get to the same place and have to have a referendum to fix it. It can start right now today by just starting to define what are the things in life that you value. How can somebody do that, Mike? How can they look inside themselves and find that?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to hit pause on life for a little bit. You have to get out of the chaos and the what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for. The distractive nature of this world. Okay. So my wife and I were coming home on a business trip or on a trip last week, and the guy next to me, he was like on this in the seat next. He was watching a movie the entire time that he was on this plane flight, which is fine. But as soon as the plane hit, landed, he turned off the movie and turned on Instagram and just started scrolling. And he scrolled for 30 minutes until we departed the plane. And it's like, that's the nature of the distractive nature of the world, is that we always have to be in action. We always have to be distracted in some way, shape, or form. And the way we find this, Nathan, is to tune out all the distractions in the world, close our eyes, start breathing, and just go inside of yourself and say, who am I? What's in there? What's inside of me? What's happening in there? Oh, and then you're going to start to see the fear that's in your mind. You're going to start to feel the fear that's in your body. You're going to start to, that's where I found my low self-worth and low self-esteem. It's when I tuned out all the distractions, and only by tuning out the distractions and finding the stories of low self-worth, low self-esteem, tracking them back to where I learned those things about myself, who taught me those things about myself. And I got to start like healing them and resolving. But if I didn't go and find them and seek them out, I couldn't resolve them. And when you do seek them, and that's why we distract ourselves, because we don't want to find them, because we're afraid that if we find them, we don't know what to do with them. But when we tune out the distractions, go in and find them, we get to resolve them. And when we resolve them, we don't need the distractions that life offers.
Mike, it's like the old proverbial weight loss conversation, right? I don't want to step on the scale because I don't want to see where I'm at.
There you go.
I have a course that I have online that helps people map out where they're at financially. It helps them put together a budget, and it helps a little bit with mindset on getting their mind right to invest in real estate. You know how many people buy the course? Zero. Nobody wants to know where they're at financially. See, if I'm going to sit down and work with a real estate investor, I'm going to ask them about their real estate portfolio. They're going to need to know everything about it. How many units do you have? What's the square footage? What is your management fees on it currently? What's your loan look like? What's your insurance costs look like? What's the taxes look like on this thing? Are you renting these out Airbnb? Are they vacant? Are they occupied? You need to know everything about your real estate investment before I can even take it on as a manager, because we underwrite every transaction. And the problem is that most real estate investors don't know the information on their units. You know how I separate out and work with the greatest real estate investors, specifically the ones investing in St. Louis? The ones that have the documentation for me that knows what's going on with their real estate investment.
To know their numbers, yeah. There's no clean. You won't have to do a whole lot of cleanup. They've already done it themselves.
So a lot of people don't want to step on the scale. A lot of people don't want to do the numbers in their finances in their banks. How do you work with people who are scared of these things, that aren't doing these things in their life and need to do these things in order to make a transition?
I mean, the first step, there's 7 vital resources that everyone's after, Nathan. And if what you've expressed, during the course of the show is everybody's chasing one, but there's actually 7 vital resources that we're all after. Okay. And it's understanding what resources that are most critical in our life. And the first one is self-love and authenticity, right? That's the first one. Okay. First resource. If you don't have that, everything else is going to be a lot harder than it needs to be. Number 2, and again, I'm not a religious man, but it's a very spiritual man. Number 2 is like connection with divinity in some way, connection to the divinity within you. Right. And because that's what all these spiritual books were trying to tell us, is that the kingdom of heaven's within. So it's going in and finding that. Number 3 is health and energy. If you don't have health and energy, you're screwed. Number 4 is love and connection. And that's what we want. Like, that's why we have a wife or a family. And that's why we have kids. That's why we have best friends, because we want that love and connection. Number 5 is we want impact and significance. We want to make a difference in the world. We want to have some element of significance in this world. Number 6 is wealth and freedom. and oftentimes this is everybody's number 1, right? So, but that's number 6. And number 7, the one that's like the beautiful composite of all that, it's peace and fulfillment. It's really enjoying a high quality life. So the first thing, Nathan, that I do with people is I sit down with them with the 7 vital resources and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Like, how much do you love yourself? And oftentimes the answer to that is, I don't. And when that's the case, that's where we got to start. We got to start with rebuilding you from the inside out, because when we rebuild you from the inside out, that peace and fulfillment, the seventh vital resource, that's going to become a whole lot easier and more naturally and so will the wealth creation, and so will the significance and the impact, and so will the loving connection. When that self-love and authenticity starts to build, everything else starts to build itself. But it's really tapping into and taking inventory of where are we in each of these vital resources. But to your point, everybody's chasing number 6 and oftentimes neglecting everything else.
Gosh, Mike, I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for years. You and I jive so well on so many different points of view. I think we've got a very similar thought process on a lot of different things that you've shared today. If somebody wanted to get connected with you, start with a program with you, or even learn more, what should they do?
On my website, innerwealthglobal.com, on the front page of the website, there is a free PDF guide. It's called Destination Millionaire Mindset. And it's really how to create a rich life or a rich mind so you can live a rich life. It starts there. So it's a free PDF, free handout. When you register for that or sign up for that, you're also going to get a PDF of my first book. There's a video course that I give away in there for free. There's so much value that's in there that's locked in. I've got guided meditations that I've created that's going to help you get inside of yourself to understand what's going on from the inside out. All of that's included if you just go to innerwealthglobal.com on the front page, Destination Millionaire Mindset, grab that free PDF. If you're connected to me on Facebook, go to my personal Facebook page, and pinned to the top is the connection point of Destination Millionaire Mindset. But there's so much value packed in there, and that's a great place to start. On my podcast is the Inner Wealth Podcast. On the podcast, I just give these little, we call them mic drops. They're little 20, 25 minute little bits of wisdom, bits of value. Plus I have people that have transitioned from something to something during the course of their life. And I've got interviews with people to try to help everyone understand that you can make a change, an impactful, drastic change anytime you want in your life. So these are two really easy, cool ways to get in touch with me. And if you love what you experience in that work, take another step. I've got workshops. My next workshop's coming up in June of this year, June 8th and 9th. It's in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's the Destination Millionaire Mindset Intensive. My whole team's flying from St. Louis down to New Orleans, and we're going to have 2 powerful, powerful days of rebuilding everything from the inside out.
Man, that's awesome, guys. Mike, what do you guys think of Mike Kitko? Show him some love online, guys. Put the likes and the hearts. Share the show today. Mike, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. Go get Mike's PDF, guys, off of his website. I'm telling you right now, Mike can help you change your life.
Thanks so much, Nathan. Nathan, thanks for having me on here, man, and thanks for letting me share my soul, man.
All right, guys. Thanks, Mike, for joining us. I wanted to take a second and remind everybody that if you want one of those portfolio assessments we talked about from Red Maples, here is what you need to do. You go to red-maples.com/assessment. And if you're a real estate investor and you're a top quality real estate investor that wants to work with the best management company in St. Louis, I'm going to claim it now. What I'd like you to do is first go to the assessment, and here's what's going to happen. If you'd like a review of your portfolio, the first thing that we're going to do is have you fill out a spreadsheet. This will help us determine the profitability, the leverage, and liquidity ratios of your business. We know that most of you who are top quality real estate investors already know your ratios, but if you don't happen to know those things, we'll also provide you a report if you have more than 15 units on those ratios. The second thing is we'll provide you with a plan of action, a direction you should take on your real estate investing business to make sure it's optimizing its performance. And then lastly, we'll help you determine, should you sell assets? Should you refinance? What should you do with the equity if you don't know? If you do know and you just need the best management company, still go take the Red Maples, red-maples.com/real estate assessment. And lastly, guys, Renovation Nation, that brings us to the end of another episode. Yeah, we're at the end. I'm Nathan Bush, your guide on this real estate journey of real estate business growth. Remember, just like plants need the right air, they need the right soil and the right care, our minds need the right environment to build a life of purpose, passion, and growth. And don't forget to get your citizenship to Mind Renovation Nation. You do a couple of things. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, head over to nathanbushmba.com/subscribe, subscribe to the email list, and share the show. That will get you your citizenship to the program. And next time, join me for more insights, inspiration, and of course, a little bit of that nation building spirit that drives us to create a community united by shared values, purpose, and a commitment to leaving a lasting legacy. Until then, keep building, keep growing, and let's lead more than 25,000 souls to a life of values-based investing. In our journey of Mind Renovation Nation, we often talk about personal growth, ethical leadership, and making impactful choices. Values-based investing is an extension of that philosophy. And it's about being a steward not only of our finances, but of our values and vision for the future. Signing off from the heart of St. Louis, stay blessed, stay inspired, and remember, every day is a chance to renovate your nation. Thanks, guys.